At a post-election day rally.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes!
Woo! Yay! Hello! It's so good to see everybody here. Wow! And I'm sure it's good to see each other as well. So if you want to take a minute or so to look at your neighbor and say, "Hi, my name is my name, and it's good to see you here." Maybe just mingle for a second.
Could I point the camera at your sign? Sure. Thank you. Thanks. I'm live streaming for Uprise.
The sun is setting. It's beautiful right now. And thank you all so much for being here. Woohoo! Yay! Yeah, and thank you all so much for being here after like a roller coaster of a year, a roller coaster of a season, like the past few days have just been crazy. So thank you for taking the time to come out here. I just wanted to get us started by saying that like fighting for democracy and fighting for justice has been happening on this land for centuries now. It started off by the Narragansett and Mashpee Wampanoag people that were murdered and colonized and forced assimilation into the society that we have today. So, acknowledging that we are fighting for justice and democracy the same way, or in a similar way that they were and have been for centuries, and they are still resilient today. So yeah, just wanted to start us off with that. Woo, let's do this thing. Okay, cool. I guess there's just like a few housekeeping things to get settled. If you're press or press wants to talk to you, go talk to Peter. That's Peter over there. He's in a green jacket and a red hat. Everybody say, "Hi, Peter."
Hi, Peter.
Awesome, yay. Cool. Marshals are in our yellow vest. They're around. If you're a marshal, you want to wave, say hello. If you have any questions about logistics or what's going to happen, or like, I don't know, you see something that you think people should know, tell those people. Sweet, is that okay? If that's okay, say okay.
Okay.
Woohoo! Awesome. Cool. Well, my name is Rachel, and I'll be the MC for y'all tonight. And I'm here because I love my sister. My sister, ever since I was young, she took care of me, whether that means like driving me places, or when I was sick or sad, she would like make me a chocolate ice cream sundae with Oreos on top. And she did that because she's just so good at taking care of people. And she also has different abilities and a lot of like pre-existing like medical conditions, and she needs a lot of state assistance. And I think I'm here because my sister deserves to get that assistance. We all deserve a government that's here to take care of us. Here to listen to us. A government that respects our voices and our votes. And make sure that every single vote here and across the country is counted. So that when we say our communities matter, they listen. Woo! Woo! Our vote counts! Our vote counts! Our vote counts! Our vote counts!
Our vote counts! Our vote counts!
Yay! That was a little funny because some people said our votes count, some people said our vote counts. It was fun. Okay. And we're here at this state house, this place, but there's also so many people right now across the country that are doing the same thing. Like saying that every vote needs to be counted, protecting our democracy and organizing us. Because we've seen that happen with the call for Black lives this past year, and how so many people rallied for mutual aid over the course of this honestly annoying and scary pandemic. And we know we can do it because our ancestors have been fighting for democracy and justice, and they paved the road for us to do what we're doing today, to elect progressive people into our state house and state senate. Oh yeah, it was all of us that did that. That's so cool. Oh God, Medicare for all, livable wages. And these people in our state house and senate believe that we need to reform these oppressive systems. And our work that we do today, the work that we did yesterday, and the work that we'll do tomorrow will be continued and continued to that one day in the future, they'll be doing things that right now we deem are impossible. And they'll be doing those things because we paved the road for that. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. That's awesome. So today, I think we're going to talk about what our people here in Providence and Rhode Island have been fighting for and why they're fighting for it. And there's no better place to start with that, starting with the root of all these systems of oppression, racism. So I want to welcome Cruz with Behind the Walls Committee at DARE and the co-founder of the formerly incarcerated Union of Rhode Island to come talk to us about that kind of stuff. Lord, please. All right. For those of you who don't know, FIU is a nonprofit organization founded and led solely by people formerly incarcerated with past felonies.
Speak into the microphone.
Directly impacted leaders.
We can't hear you.
That the closest to the problem are closest to the solutions, but furthest from the resources. So we do believe that we're all stronger together in breaking down these barriers of the criminal and justice system so we can live free and thrive here in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, the number of people who are directly impacted is well over 26,000. And this is not including those no longer under community supervision, but living with past felony convictions for as long as decades ago. Once a person is incarcerated, they're subjected to traumatic experiences daily, such as the wide use of solitary confinement that only works to exacerbate trauma for the sole purpose to break the human spirit, mind, body, and soul. These are the human rights violations experienced by our loved ones behind the walls daily. And this is why we must continue to fight. When we talk about decarceration, this does not include expanding community corrections and surveillance, or turning our communities into extensions of the prison system. Rhode Island already leads the nation with the 6th highest rate of community corrections for probation and parole, and the 4th highest probation supervision alone. Once a person leaves those walls, they should be able to access the freedom to live, work, and access all the basic needs necessary. This current forced prison revolving door is why we continue to fight. The profit and poverty tactics of probation, parole, and court debt is why we must continue to fight. Once our loved ones are released, they are not fully free due to community corrections. They are faced with economic and housing injustices, barriers to health care, education, and basic needs that not only affects the person, but their families, the neighborhoods, and the state as a whole. 55% of these men and women incarcerated are parents. 51% of men and 66% of women are unemployed when they're incarcerated. And the majority when released face constant housing instability. We are fighting to put people's needs over further investments in prisons, such as closing high side. This is why we must continue to fight.
than 90 days to serve on a sentence. This is how we know we must continue to fight. FIU is currently working to fight voter disenfranchisement. When a recent FIU review found over 100 people currently being held at the ACI that are registered and eligible to vote, but there is no formal coordinated process in place to access that right to vote.
That's different!
Yes! This is what reminded us. This is why we must continue to fight. This was a law that was passed back in 2006, but yet there is still no formal process to ensure those individuals who are eligible can vote. As I share this, keep this in mind. Rhode Island incarceration rates remain 8 times higher for Black residents and 2.5 times higher for Latino residents than for white residents. And when compared to the national rates, we are much higher when it comes to these disparities. So don't get it twisted. We know what these barriers and disparities are to address and to affect. We know it's our Black, Native American, and Latino residents here in Rhode Island. We cannot pretend we do not know that these systems and these barriers disproportionately impact. And this is why we must continue to fight. Issues right here long before this election and this current administration, and why we must continue to move forward and work diligently to uplift our directly impacted loved ones. We are asking all of you to continue to fight and advocate for dismantling these discriminatory systems and work towards creating a system that is built to meet people's needs instead of one that is built on punishment and exclusion. So we're just asking, please join FIU Behind the Walls, Working Family Parties, Sunrise, Showing Up for Racial Justice, and the many other dedicated organizations and fellow Rhode Islanders here as we continue to fight for the human rights of all Rhode Islanders. And that is why we must continue to fight. What's really messed up though is that here in Providence, the city council is actively working to fuel that system through the police. There is actually a city council meeting this Thursday at 5:30 about a plan to hire more police in Providence. They want to hire 200 more cops. That's crazy. And the thing is that they tried to do this under the table so that none of us would know. But hey, I think we're going to take action right now. So, how many of us have a cell phone? Do a woo if you do. Sweet. That's really awesome. Because now we have to call those city councilmen who are going to be voting on this bill, on this resolution to hire more cops. So, I'm gonna do a people's mic where you repeat after me so that we can all get the number to call. And then when we call, we say, you need to vote no on resolution 3200 because we don't need more money, more police officers. We need more support in our communities that actually keep us safe, that make us feel safe. So, okay, repeat after me. We're gonna call Carmen Castillo, okay? And her number
No, I'll definitely.
Okay, everybody press dial on your phones right now. We'll be back in like a minute. And tell Carmen. Okay. I don't think there's a script, but just say, we don't need more police officers. We need the money to go to our communities where the resolution is resolution 3200. Cool.
So right now, the speaker just announced Carmen Castillo's office number, and people are calling to ask her to vote no on a resolution to hire more Providence police officers. A substantial portion of the audience is attempting to call that number at the moment. Again, this council member Carmen Castillo. Castillo famously is supposedly the only elected housekeeper in the United States.
Are you calling? It's a busy signal. Call tomorrow. Call tonight at midnight. Call tomorrow morning. Call tomorrow at 5 o'clock, before 5 o'clock, so that they know that you don't want more police in your city. Yeah, they're voting on it tomorrow at 5:30, and they're not having community hearing. So, no justice, no peace. Take to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Take to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Take to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Take to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Take it to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Take it to the streets to fund the police. No justice, no peace. Okay, well, we just took action, and you're gonna keep taking action tonight and tomorrow. Thank you all for doing that. I think now we're gonna switch gears a little bit. I wanted to tell you that sometimes when I have like a really long and tired day, the best feeling is like knowing that I have a place to go back to, that I know will be there for me, that I know will have my bed and water and food. But unfortunately, that beautiful and basic thing that I have is a privilege. There's so many people out there that don't have a place to call home, don't have a place to go back to. And our friend Terry Wright, who is the Tenant and Homeowner Association organizer, is going to come up and tell us a little bit more about these housing accesses. So, thanks.
Hello, everyone. When we talk about building the community, we're talking about DARE. We strongly believe in stopping the displacement of families by supporting the need for low-income affordable housing for struggling communities. There is a public outcry for housing. How can we successfully treat mental illness, asthma, those with disabilities, diabetes? We're in the pandemic. Weakened immune systems, children that have to get up every morning to either attend school in person or need a roof over their heads to be able to participate in visual learning. How does that work when you're homeless? Our state has suffered an increase in evictions during this pandemic. There were 6 evictions filed before our state shut down in June. 1,100 166 evictions have been filed during this pandemic. 336 evictions for Providence. 181 evictions for Woonsocket, whom only has one zip code. This message has been approved for Gina Raimondo in the General Assembly. We have a state eviction and foreclosure moratorium that ends on December 31st. We need an emergency order to halt evictions now. For families facing eviction and landlords who face foreclosure due to financial hardships during COVID's emergency. No eviction! No eviction! Cancel rent too while you're at it. I personally chose to work countless hours to make sure our community had essential items like food to eat, soap, and a place to stay. Last month, 350 plus members from our community had to sleep outside because there were no available beds in homeless shelters. Unacceptable! Very unacceptable. This is an environmental emergency emerging. We've worked alongside United Way, 211, homeless advocates in the Homeless Coalition, Homes for Rhode Island, SPNA, but also to make sure that an oxygen patient had a place to stay and access to a plug during this pandemic. This person was getting ready to be kicked out of a hotel during the pandemic because she didn't have any money. So I really want to say thank you to the homeless advocates who helped me help her. Get some extra time there. This is a public health message. We are the only state in New England without a fund for low-income affordable housing. Our communities need a fund for low-income affordable housing. We need state-based protections. We need to invest in our state. Invest in our communities. Environmental investments are housing, in case Gina Raimondo or the General Assembly didn't know. Environmental investments are housing, healthcare, education, jobs, and transportation. I dare them try to split up the hub in Kennedy Plaza. That's a no-no, we're not going for it. And it would be nice to have RIPTA come to our side and fight this fight with us. RIPTA's job as a community service is to get get us from A to B without difficulty. Not make things more difficult for those with disabilities, children, mothers, just the working community. We need housing, low-income housing, and we need it now. We need an eviction moratorium. We need a foreclosure moratorium. We need relief during COVID-19. Which should include canceling rent. If I had my way, everything would be free. During this pandemic, you all showed me that we can all come together. And just like we rocked the vote, we can rock this vote. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
I'm in the mall.
And we're at a rally, post-election
Can we get another round
rally.
of applause for Terry, please? That was so powerful. There is so much that we need right now, and Rhode Island is not doing a good job of protecting low-income people and making sure that people are protected in COVID in this terrible pandemic. So I would really appreciate it if everyone could just take 5 steps forward, 20 steps forward, and come a little bit closer so that, of course, stay socially distant. But I want to lead you in some more songs, some more chants. And I really think that it's so important to sing together and to chant together, because when we put our voices together, we see how powerful we really are. So we're going to use something called the People's Mic. So if you know what the People's Mic is, say People's Mic. Okay, so that's exactly how it works. The People's Mic is used when you don't have a microphone or a megaphone and you want to amplify your voice. How it works is someone speaks and then the crowd, the people, amplify and repeat what that person just said. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So repeat after me. Our voices are powerful, and we will use them to fight for affordable housing. Our voices are powerful, and we will use them to fight for turn, you'll repeat after me. Okay? It goes like this. We gotta rise up till it's one.
We gonna rise up till it's one.
We gotta rise up till it's one.
We gotta rise up till it's one.
When the people rise up, powers come down. When the people rise up, powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. Together. We gonna rise up till it's one. We gonna rise up till it's one. When the people rise up, the powers come down. When the people rise up, powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. One more time. We gotta rise up till it's one. We gotta rise up till it's one. When the people rise up, the powers come down. When the people rise up, the powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. Thank you so much, Nicole, for leading us in that song. Give it up for Nicole. Wow. I just love singing. I remember I'm in Sunrise, the movement to stop the climate crisis. And I remember I went into this meeting and I didn't know anybody there. And they said, Rachel, you can sing some songs if you want to, and you'll be a part of our club. And I said, hell yeah, I'm into it. Yeah. So I guess now there's so many things going on, so many crises happening right now. The pandemic, of course, evictions, the uprising for Black laws to stop police brutality, to abolish our police and prison. But underneath it all, and what's still happening and that still continues to happen, is our climate is warming, causing people to have to leave their homes because they're being flooded, destroyed in extreme weather. And it's like, well, all this shit is happening in our daily lives. We still have to worry that we have like 7 years left to stop the climate crisis before it's too late, before there's no going back. And I think to talk about that a little bit more is Jeremy from the Sunrise Movement.
Hello! If you can hear me, can you... Thanks, Rachel. Hold on. First, if you can hear me, let's give Rachel some applause. That's how I know you can hear me. Okay. My friends, I'm thinking about loneliness. I'm thinking about last night, watching the results come back, and thinking about all the people I wanted to hug but couldn't. Do you have any of those people? You don't have to shout it, but I don't know how it feels to know there's those people you can't hug because of this mishandled pandemic. Don't shout it, maybe just think. I don't know how it feels. It feels a little hollow in my stomach. Y'all, my grandma, she is the most badass woman. She writes essays every damn day. And also, yeah, for grandma, she survived the Holocaust. She remembers the day she saw her brothers and dad for the last time. And as darkness stirs around our country, she feels those memories coming back too. And I just think about what it means to stand across the room from her and watch her cry and say, Nana, it's okay, and want to hug her so bad, and I can't. And so we all have these people, we know this. And I'm telling you this, not because maybe loneliness causes climate change, but because separation from each other is at the heart of the issue of climate disaster. Because when the heat wave comes, it's the people who aren't checked in on who pass away. And to even have hopes about decarbonizing fast enough, we've got to pool our effort and separate. In these cages of separation and loneliness, as darkness comes at 4:15, I feel like, how the hell can we link up enough to get this Green New Deal and save our grandmas and our grandkids? How can we do it? It's a sad thing, but y'all, I'm thinking about something. I'm thinking about Terry, who stood up a second ago and talked about helping people who were on the streets. I'm thinking about each and every one of you here who's wearing a mask, who passed out some water or some food, who sang and chanted alongside us the truth that there is love in each human being, a bright light that comes out when it's needed. I think about Gretchen picking up after trees from Hurricane Laura. I'm thinking about Tyee, who's fighting wildfires in Washington. I'm thinking about Jake, who scooped mud from his church basement when the river flooded. My friends, we have this light of love in each and every one of us, and when we help each other, it shines. Give that a cheer. And there's an even better part of it, or clear-eyed part of it, which is that if the government can't help us make this love come, then we don't have a chance. But the same light that taught all you to wear a mask and call your grandma and your sibling, it brings you here today with sharp-eyed political power. And here's what we're going to do, friends. They may have the Senate, but our movement is going to force aggressive executive action, and then we're going to win the Senate in the next 2 years. Are you ready for that? But listen, we know it's going to be tough. We know it's this bright light in us that's going to pave the way. And so to do that, we've got to keep coming together like this. On Sunday, I think there's going to be an open meeting. We all got to come back. This same heart muscle you feel beating now, you got to tap into that. And on Sunday, I'll be there to see you too. Let's keep building this love, and let's confront climate disaster before it comes. Let's do this thing. Okay, come back and we'll do the next thing. All right, keep doing a little dance for yourselves. There you go.
As the sun is setting for us, we've got some more speakers that would like to come up. So I am going to introduce Tiara Mack, who is the Senator-elect for District 6 here in Providence. And also check out her hair, it looks so good. Hard to miss with the new hair. My name is Tiara, and I was recently elected yesterday. I'm not surprised that we got here. I got a lot to say, a lot of feelings, a lot of bucks to get off my chest. I've got a lot of bucks to get off my chest today, but it's not in shock, and it's not in grounded in knowing that we landed in this moment in 2016. It was a foreshadowing of being here in this day, knowing that this journey was meant for us to lead to disrupting all the systems that lead to our collective oppression. I'm here because I have hope, because I'm an idealist, because I'm a radical, because I'm a leftist, and because I believe that we have a path forward. We got here because each of us ignored injustice. I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it, we're all impacted of it, and we're all a product of it.
I'm guilty of letting injustice occur and not standing up for what I know to be true. When we accept rising rent costs and stagnant wages, we stand for white supremacy. When we, in a global pandemic, accept evictions, foreclosures, we accept white supremacy. When we understand that we are all impacted and ingrained in a system of white supremacy culture, none of us are exempt from this fight. We are taught to be individuals first and communities second. We are taught to hoard money, power, and resources, and we are taught to take on the role of the oppressors once we gain power, status, and money. We are never taught to question that these systems that force us to fight for resources when this is more important to all of us. We've had enough. We must understand and accept that we are impacted and ingrained in this system. When we give our friends a pass, when we give our families a pass, we are giving them an excuse for their learned behaviors, and we need to continue to check them in every single way. Every single person that buckles and opts for the easy road, the less imaginative road, the road that places centralized power above justice and liberation is the problem. In my own campaign, I had plenty of elected officials and organizations that were afraid to stand next to me, who were afraid to align themselves with my campaign. We need to make sure that when we go up into the State House, all 21 newly elected Black and brown and Indigenous individuals, that we stand firm in our vision that collective power, we stand in a vision that if we band together, we can get $50,000 minimum salaries for every single person. There's a pathway for luxury, low-income housing in our state. It's not going to take 10 years, it can take 5. In our state, we can get a Green New Deal, and when we do that, we ensure that reproductive health rights are at the center of that. We ensure that a living wage, green new energy, and breathable air are at the center of those policies and those plans, and we do it together. And we do it with a grounded vision that when we all come together and say enough is enough, hoarded power can no longer be what guides our policies. We must put people first at the center of all of those policies. We need to also stop calling these creative solutions. They are solutions to the problem of white supremacy. When we say that we want to defund the police to lead to abolition, it is because we know that when our communities have resources, when they are not fighting over where their next meal is coming from, when their next check is going to be for their medical bills or for their rent or for their housing, that is when we create communities and systems that work regardless of who is in charge. We should be fighting for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for every single person in our community. The money and the power to do it is right here, right now. We must make sure that we are not taking the easy way out and placating those who are in the top 1%, the power hoarders. We need to make sure that we are taxing fairly every single person to make sure that when we build that environmentally friendly, luxury, low-income housing on every single block of Rhode Island, that is being paid for by the people who are taking advantage of the system, by the CEOs who would rather fill their pockets and their bank accounts than fill their lowest paid employees with a livable wage. And these are not creative solutions. When we say we want to take the funds from a department that is predicated on the systemic oppression of Black, brown, and Indigenous people, that take our opportunities out of low-income people and in their communities, we are saying we're putting those resources back into mental health care, into the education system. We are giving power back to the people. We need to stop being afraid of saying that we are abolitionists. We need to stop saying that we are afraid of defunding the police. We need to first say that we are brave enough to envision a society that works for every single person in our community. The path ahead is going to be hard, and if you are like me, today was not a shock or a surprise. It's a wake-up call that each and every one of us have to start at the grassroots organization. Whether or not you today woke up and said you must do something, you must do that every single day. Yes! Go to the meeting. Take notes. Stand up. Join one of these organizations as soon as you get home. Put their meetings on your calendar. Because it's not about us doing it
in silos. We must do it together because the climate movement is the reproductive justice movement, is the livable wage movement, is the housing movement. When we organize together and we put our collective power behind a just budget and a new leadership system that says we can get the change we want now. Our ancestors have fought too hard not for us not to get change in the fiscal year budget next year. Yes! We've waited too long for change to come. We must demand at every single level, the city, the state, and federally, that it is a moral document. Every budget is a moral document that dictates whether or not we really believe that homelessness is man-made, poverty is man-made, and we have the resources in each of our communities to make sure that in the next 5 years, those ideas are abolished. I was going to say more things, but that's it. Thank y'all.
Can we get a jump up and down if you want to for Tiara? Wow, okay, cool. That was just like an amazing dream. I like to close my eyes and imagine a future where we can take care of the climate crisis, where we as women have control over our bodies and no matter where we are. And everybody has a home. And everybody has green space. And everybody knows where the food comes from. It's just a beautiful place, a beautiful future that we are building. Yes! And that future has been building. And last night was kind of pivotal. I don't know if you know, there was an election last night. And it was kind of crazy. So, Andrea from the Working Families Party is going to ground us in that state and what the election meant for us. So, Andrea, where are you? Come on up. Oh, there she is. Everybody give her a round of applause. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Awesome. For those who don't know me, my name is Andrea Rojas. I am an immigrant, originalmente de Guatemala, the daughter of laborers and union members, a working class woman of color, and an organizer with the Working Families Party. In Rhode Island and across the country, turnout numbers shattered records when election defenders mounted a massive operation that made for a relatively smooth election day, even with all the concerns around voter intimidation. Over the past few weeks, we've seen voters show up despite attempts to stop them, whether that was waiting in long lines or driving long distances to drop off ballots. Despite losing loved ones and experiencing violence and oppression, despite a system that makes it way too hard to vote, we were determined to be heard. Organizers throughout the country were especially creative this year in their Get Out the Vote efforts, from providing barbecue to voters in line in Texas, to singing and dancing with voters in line in Philadelphia, to the 73,000 texts and calls that WFP coordinated here in Rhode Island alone in an effort to remind folks to vote. What we know is that ballots take time to count, especially with so many people voting by mail or early for the first time ever. We saw here in Rhode Island that races that looked lost with just in-person votes flipped dramatically as mail and early votes came in. That is a model for how we should think about the counting that's happening now in swing states. Things are changing, and they are changing because of the outrage. They're changing because
because of the courage, and they're changing because of the determination of voters and organizers alike. Right? I know that we're feeling hopeful right now, but I also know that we're mad. I know I'm mad as hell. Especially communities of color and low-income communities who continue facing all kinds of hurdles and disenfranchisement when voting. We stand here today in hope for the future and in confidence in the voice of the voters who cast their ballots but haven't yet been counted. We stand ready to make sure their votes are counted and voices are heard. If you want to learn more about where we are right now and what you can do beyond being here today, take out your phone, the cell phones that you have, and text COUNT to 30403 and join the WFP, the Movement for Black Lives, and United We Dream, along with activists across the country on a mobilizing call tonight at 8 p.m. Just a few hours. We need to be ready to go if they get desperate, you know who they are, if they try and throw out votes in Pennsylvania, for example. Can you repeat the number? 30403.
30403!
Thank you.
On the bottom of the yellow sign.
It's on the yellow sign too. Count 30403. The anti-democracy, white supremacists, and their allies have never given up before, and there's no reason to think that they won't try to pull out all the stops to keep people silent this time around too. It's what they do, but we won't let them. Yeah. That starts by connecting with national actions that are happening tonight and keeping that momentum going throughout the week. So text COUNT to 30403 and join that call tonight at 8. I'll see you there. But nonetheless, however, no matter what the national results show, we have so much work to do, especially here in Rhode Island. We must recommit to ending mass incarceration. We must recommit to protecting immigrants. We must ensure safe, truly affordable housing for all. We must divest from policing and reinvest in Black communities, Indigenous communities, and all communities of color. We must halt gentrification and displacement. And we must ensure an environmentally sustainable and just future, the kind of future that Rachel was just talking about moments ago. And so much more. That's work that needs to be done and that we need to be doing right here at home in Rhode Island. Even more, we face a huge budget crisis which will decimate essential services here unless we can finally agree to make the wealthiest Rhode Islanders pay their fair share of taxes. We are committed to fighting for justice and liberation nationally, and we commit to fighting it here in Rhode Island too. This has been a traumatic year, to say the least. As much as we are all done with 2020, it is too soon to say we're done here, because we're not. This year demands a little bit more of us. We have so much still to win. First, by counting all the votes, and then by banding together here to continue demanding that our elected officials put the needs of working people, white, Black, and brown, first. Thanks all. I'm pretty sure we voted to take Providence plantations off of our name.
Crowd is cheering that and Providence Plantations is removed from the official state
That's
name.
so awesome. Wow, imagine to be able to say your state's name and not have to think about slavery. That's kind of awesome. Wow. Okay, well, I know right now a lot of people are, maybe we're a little optimistic, we're a little hopeful, but we're also uncertain, kind of unsure of what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Don't know where we're going to be needed in the next few months and weeks to come. But we know that we have to uphold our democracy and our compassion and our love. We know that we won't do it alone.
And there's a little
It was kind of cool as Trump tried to announce victory last night. Even Republican and Fox News said, actually, nah, we're gonna count every vote. And it's crazy because so many votes are still coming in, and those votes are like the prettiest, clear shade of blue that I'm so ready for. Yeah. Alright, friends. I'm pretty excited for this future that we have for us, and I'm pretty freaking excited that we can all build it together. Whatever that future looks like for you, if that's affordable housing, if that's climate crisis, if that's reproductive rights, if that's anything that we talked about here, or anything that you're still feeling in your heart, we're fighting for that too. And we'll continue to fight for that because we're going to have an open meeting this Sunday at 8 overdue, or at 7 p.m. overdue, where we're going to talk about all the different orgs that put this together today and all the different orgs that are doing work here and how you can get involved to keep doing this work, keep building that future that we know we all deserve. And so, in order to get you there, since it's on Zoom, we're going to be signing people in. So if you haven't signed in yet, Nathan's back there. He's dancing with some QR codes that you can scan. Or you can just give us your name and your email or your phone number so that we can make sure that we can still keep up this momentum and keep up this anger, but also like optimism and hope that so we can like organize for a better future, my friends. So I just want to give us all a big old round of applause. So cheer for yourself. Woo-hoo. We only have like 2 more months left before 2020, so we're almost there. Make sure y'all sign in so we can see all your beautiful faces. Again, over here. Woohoo! Okay, cool. I think that's it. Yay! We did it! Let's go over there. Let's go there. Woohoo! We gotta rise up to this one. We gotta rise up to this one. We rise up, power comes down. The people rise up, power comes down. They try to stop us, but we become back. They try to stop us, but we become back. We're gonna rise up to this one. We're gonna rise up to this one. We rise up, power comes down. We rise up, power comes down. They try to stop us, but we become back. They try to stop us, but we come back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back.
Hi, this is Will James from SURJ RI. We were just at a post-election rally. Organizers making demands for people to count every vote, saying that people should be ready to assist other states in fighting to ensure that every vote is counted, and asking Rhode Islanders that are here today to recommit to fighting for climate justice, racial equality, low-income housing, very specific goals that you can all hear about if you scroll back and listen if you're on desktop. Steve Alquist will also be writing an article. This event was organized by the Working Families Party, Sunrise Providence, and DARE. There is, I believe, one other organizer as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate our Patreon supporters. It allows us to purchase a streaming service that sends our live streams to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We may be buying a new one shortly because this one is sometimes unreliable. And we can afford that thanks to you. I'm sorry, the Steve Alquist? I have not seen him recently.
Packed up instantly. Okay, yeah, sorry.
No problem. He's probably still here. He's probably still here. I usually talk to him after.
Hey, thanks for all the work you do.
No problem. Of course.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.